Hey guys, so today I went to Target, which if you know me at all, you know that Target is one of my favorite places on the planet. It's one of my happy places. But the most feedback I've been getting on all of my videos is that people really like the fact that I'm using readily available things like from the drugstore. There are some things that I've had my eye on that I wanted to test, and so I figured I would get those. I also realized that I use a lot of drugstore face products, but I do not use a lot of drugstore eye products. For example, eyeshadows. And so I thought I picked up 2 eyeshadow palettes, one of which I will be testing today. The palette that I'm gonna test today is by Wet n Wild. And then as I was picking out products to go with this, I realized I have a lot of Wet n Wild stuff, and I actually almost have enough Wet n Wild stuff to do my entire face with Wet n Wild. The only thing I don't have is a mascara, a brow product, a lip product, or a primer. And Wet n Wild has all those things, and I'm sure there are gems within their collection. I just personally don't own any, but I own everything else, including brushes, and so I even have some brushes to demo with them. So this is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation in the color Soft Beige. Now the brilliant part of this foundation is that it has been tested under different light conditions, under 7 different light conditions. And so it is supposed to not give you flashback. And, ooh, I forgot to prime. Oh well, it's not supposed to give you flashback. And if you don't know what flashback is, I will insert a picture that I have of myself. It's when the product reflects the light, so it doesn't look very good. It usually shows up in pictures. And so the whole point is that this foundation has been tested to not give any flashback. So I'm actually going to, this is a Wet n Wild brush. It's a flat top. It's not my favorite brush, but for the sake of this video, I thought it would be fun to use a Wet n Wild brush. Since I'm also testing this foundation, I'm going to apply it with this brush on half my face, and I'm also going to use my Real Techniques blending sponge and blend out the other side with a sponge and see which way I like it applied the best. I really like the way this blended out with a brush. I feel like you definitely get some pretty good coverage. This face shade might be a little dark for me, oops. But I'm just gonna go ahead and use my beauty sponge and blend out the other side. One of the downfalls to using a beauty sponge on your face products is that the sponge absorbs a lot of the product. And so sometimes you'll have to use more foundation or more concealer than you typically would if you were using a brush. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more and see if I can build that coverage to be the same as the side I use the brush on. Moving on, I'm going to take the Wet n Wild Photo Focus concealer. It's a part of that same line, so it again doesn't give flashback during flash photography. I really like this concealer. It is another really good primer for my eyelids, and even though I'm testing this foundation for the first time, I'm not testing this concealer for the first time. I superly love this concealer. And it's only like $4. To set my powder, I'm gonna use this Wet n Wild Mega Glow Contour Palette. This is in the shade Dulce de Leche.
Am I allowed to laugh at the way you said dulce?
Yes. Next, I'm gonna take this shade, like I said, to bronze, and this is a Wet n Wild powder brush. I like to use it for bronzer. Clearly, this used to be white. I have used it a lot. I'm also gonna take, this is another Wet n Wild brush. This is part of their Magnificent Metals, I think it's called, or one of their new collections. And they have a whole line of face brushes and eye brushes in this collection, and they're a little bit more expensive, and by more expensive I mean like $1 or $2, but they're worth it. The quality is significantly better than the white handled brushes. And I'm just gonna take a little bit of that powder that I used to set my concealer and just run it all over my face to set the foundation. Next, I'm gonna take this Wet n Wild brush. It's just like a little, it's the shape of a fan brush, but as you can see, it's a little bit thicker. And I'm gonna take the Wet n Wild Color Icon blush in Apricot in the middle. It's a really apricot-y shade. And then this is a Wet n Wild Mega Glow highlighting powder in the shade Precious Petals. If you're gonna buy anything from this video, this is your ticket item. Wet n Wild's highlighters are amazing, and I believe they're like $3 or $4. I prefer these over my high-end highlighters every day. This is the palette. It's called Nude Awakening. And it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mattes and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shimmers. So I believe this palette was $5. I'm gonna take a Wet n Wild shadow brush. Now I'm going to take this shade labeled as Transition. I'm gonna put that in my crease. I'm gonna take another one of my Wet n Wild brushes. I think I have 4 of these. And I'm gonna take this cranberry shade and I'm gonna use it to deepen up the crease. This is another, this is an eye brush from that Metals collection of the Wet n Wild brushes. It's the P10, it's just a little pencil brush. And I'm going to take this dark brown. I'm gonna go back in with that shade I used for the cranberry color, and I'm just gonna pick up a little bit more of that and blend over this. I'm gonna take another Wet n Wild brush. This is just a flat shader brush, and I'm going to take this rose gold shade, and I'm gonna just try and pick it up on my brush and see how it applies. Whoa. Okay, that applied way better than I thought it would dry. I thought I would have to add some setting spray to it to make it more metallic, but that's impressive. Just to see what it would look like, I'm gonna take my setting spray in. Yeah, that just made it more metallic. Next, I'm gonna take this champagne-y light shade on my inner corner. Just so y'all can see. I'm applying a lot of pressure. Doesn't seem to be as pigmented as that rose gold shade. Let me try the shade next to it, even though it looks a little darker. See if that just comes off. That has a little bit more. I'm gonna take the original shade, pick up a bunch, and spray my brush. There we go. It's still not quite as blinding as I would like, so I'm gonna take pink shade. Okay, that's pretty. It's a little different, but I like it. Just to make sure that I do hit that inner corner though, I'm gonna go back in with my actual highlighter. Next, I'm gonna go back with that pencil brush and I'm gonna get the really dark shade, the dark brown shade, and I'm gonna run that on my lower lash line. And take my blending brush again, go back in with the cranberry shade. Finally go back in with that original brush and the original transition shade. Alright guys, so I applied some mascara and did my eyebrows off camera. I also put on a lip gloss. This is the Revlon Ultra HD Matte Lip Color in the shade Seductive. I really like these. They apply like a lip gloss, but they are more like a cream, have the same benefits of a chapstick. But anyways, looking at my eye makeup, I'm super, super pleased. This palette way outperformed my expectations. I know I didn't touch on every color in the palette, so I do want to give you just some finger swatches of the colors that I missed. So the matte cream shade, it feels really soft in the pan. I realize it's kind of silly to swatch a matte cream shade on your skin. This is the darker, see, not a lot of pigment in that, and we saw that whenever I tried to apply it with the brush too. This is the shade, the next shade over. The shade I originally tried to put on my inner corner, and then this is the pinkier shimmery shade on the top row. Next down the row, this is the rose gold shade. This is the matte cranberry shade in the crease. Definitely a buildable shade. And this is the dark shimmery shade. Ooh, it feels really creamy. And this is the black. It's a pretty good black for a $5 palette. The light transition shade. Ooh, not a lot of pigment on that, but good for blending out in your crease. There we go. The dark transition shade. That shade and that shade. So guys, overall, I would give this palette B minus. One, the price, rockin'. It's like $5. Are you kidding? That's amazing. And the standout gems are obviously this rose gold shade, this bronzy shade, this dark brown, and I would say that black is a total standout. Oh, and this pinky shade. For a $5 palette, the affordableness outweighs the cons of the quality of the shadow for sure. I'm also really liking the way this foundation is laying on my skin. I know I've said in previous videos that foundation breaks up a lot on my nose, and this isn't, so that's a plus. I think I could have gotten a shade lighter, but that's okay. And then of course, like I said, the cheek highlight from Wet n Wild's, those are amazing. So that's all I got for today. If you guys have any comments or requests for other one brand reviews or other drugstore reviews on products, I'd be happy to go to the store and do that. Just gives me one more excuse to go buy some makeup. So that's everything. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.